Okay. So I'm going to go over the question 7 again. I think we did go over it, but we went over it a little quicker. So this way I can explain it a little bit more. And for those that missed it, after I'm finished, if you have a question from any of the ones before that you didn't get a chance to put down, let me know in the chat and I'll go over those ones again. Okay. And then after we're done with the study guide, we're going to take our Unit 5 test. And then you can use the study guide that you're marking up, the blank document, to help you out. So remember, if you need to edit, click File and then make a copy so that you can edit your own. Okay, so which kind of data cannot be gathered through remote sensing by satellites? So down here we have a picture of that remote sensing by satellites. The satellites are all the way up in space. And they're using kind of like a sonar detection tool. And here are the 3 things that they can gather, and that's water temperatures, right? They can detect the temperature of the water because that's important to keep track of, because changes in temperatures are also what causes storms. So it's a good idea to be able to monitor that so that we can kind of have a heads up if a storm's going to be incoming. Like, we can prepare for it and do what we can. And the remote sensing satellites can also measure the depth of the ocean floor, like how deep it is. Let me just pull it up. Yeah. Let me finish this point first, and then I'll help you with your apex problem. Okay, so the depth of the ocean floor, some parts of the ocean we haven't explored yet. So it's helpful to know if the ocean floor that we're going to be exploring, how deep it is, right? How safe it is, and what materials or what technology or equipment we need to bring along. And they also detect the movement of surface currents. So, how strong the waves are coming, again, that can also result in a tsunami, and that can like come inland and destroy houses or buildings. So, again, this is super helpful to prepare and help the people who live near the water have a bigger heads up. So, remote sensing satellites. But one thing that they can't, so tricky about this question is cannot, not that it can, right? So, cannot, they can't collect the sample of living things. And it makes sense too, because they're like all the way outside the earth. So, they wouldn't be able to get a sample of anything living in the ocean. So, that would be the answer. So remember not to put just the letter of the answer, because that will change when you're taking the test. So during the test, the order might change. Okay, and 7B, which method of studying the ocean is shown in the illustration? That is remote sensing. So like what we were just talking about. And then 7C, kind of similar to the other 2 questions. Here it's asking what kind of data can be gathered So composition of rocks on the ocean floor. No, we didn't talk about that. Videos of deep sea creature producing their own light. That sounds cool, but we didn't talk about that. And samples of bacteria. Nope. Right, because remote sensing can't get any type of sample of anything living. So D, changes in ocean surface temperature. Yeah, that's one of the three things that the remote sensing satellites can capture. So if you kind of notice, all three questions within 7 are kind of similar, right? So they're similar. For the test, there's like 3 different versions. You might get this question, you might get this question, or you might get this question, but you won't get all 3. So that's why this is a possibility of which one you can get. So that's why they're all kind of similar, because they're kind of, in a way, asking about the same thing. So 7C on the test won't be 7C. It'll just be 7. Or you might get 7B or might get 7A. Okay, now moving on. 8A. Which 3 statements describe ways that the Earth's atmosphere protects living things? So that atmosphere that we have, that layer of air, that helps protect us because it blocks solar radiation that can be very harmful for us. And I'll go into more depth of what is harmful for us later in the next question. And the atmosphere helps keep our biosphere's temperature in a comfortable range. Otherwise, we, like some other planets in the solar system, if we didn't have that atmosphere to trap in the temperature and kind of keep it warm, we would be really, really cold. Kind of like the frozen world, the Arctic that we learned about. And then one more thing that the atmosphere does is it provides gases that us living things need, like oxygen for us to breathe, or carbon dioxide for plants to breathe in. So yeah, you have to pick all 3, otherwise you'll get this wrong. Okay, and then 2 ways that the atmosphere helps protect living things. like we kind of briefly talked about, it has this layer, and that's called the ozone layer. And that absorbs the harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Recent like how people have skin cancer, um, that's because that developed because their body absorbed a little too much ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So that's why when we go out in the sun, we need to put on sunscreen, because that creates like a barrier so that our skin isn't taking in that dangerous ultraviolet radiation. So that's cool that our planet just somehow just formed this layer to protect us. Like it was just naturally, that's just how it became. And atmosphere. One more thing that helps protect us is that it stops too much thermal energy from escaping into space. So thermal energy, that's also called like heat. So it holds in our heat so that not too much is escaping into the space, which keeps us warm still. Otherwise, if they escaped all into space, then our planet would be cold. Similar to the other ones, two more ways is that it contains oxygen gas and carbon dioxide gas, which living things need, right? Because we breathe in oxygen, and then plants need carbon dioxide to live. And then it traps energy from the sun to keep the earth warm. So all the eights are kind of similar. So you can get any one of the A, B, or C. So that's why they're similar. Okay, and then now we're moving on to air in our atmosphere. So in our atmosphere, there's the density of air, just like how heavy the air is or how many molecules are there. Because let's say with oxygen, if oxygen is in the air, if there's more oxygen molecules, then the density will increase because there's more mass. So that just makes the air heavier. But when altitude is how high up we are. So if altitude decreases, the density of air will increase. So think of them as opposites too. So altitude, let's say we have a change in altitude, like we go up into the mountains, right? If you ever went on a hike, like the higher you go up, it's kind of harder to breathe, right? So that's because when the altitude increase, the density of air will decrease, right? Because they're opposites. And if the density decrease, that means there's less oxygen molecules available in the air, so less of the oxygen for us to breathe in. So that's why it's harder to breathe the higher you are. Here, I'll add in its height. Okay, and similarly, Air pressure is also the opposite of altitude too. So if altitude's increasing, air pressure will decrease. And that's because of more like a gravity. So the higher up we are, right? So if altitude's increasing, the higher up we are, the molecules are further away from the ground. So gravity, the force of gravity is acting on them less. So less pressure. So the higher up you are, the molecules are farther away from the ground. So less gravity, so less pressure. Okay, and density of air again. Remember, density of air is also opposite of altitude. So if altitude's increasing, density decrease. So our hiking up the mountain example, right? Increasing altitude, we'll have a decrease of density of air because there's less oxygen molecules available to breathe in, which makes it harder to breathe. Okay, so we're almost done. We're on the last one. Okay, so for 10, what is a wind that blows from land towards an ocean called? So if the wind starts off at the land area, then it'll be called the land breeze. Please go up. Is that enough? Let me know if you need me to go up more. So yeah, wherever the wind starts at, it'll be named after that. So it'll be called land breeze. I'll show you a picture of it later. Okay, we're gonna move down, but if you need it, let me know later, and I'll bring it back up. So land breeze. Okay, and then this one, which type of wind is part of this convection current? We'll look at wherever there's the blue arrow, where that's where it starts. And wherever it starts, that's where it's going to be named. So I see that the blue arrow is right here. So then we'll call this the sea breeze because it starts off at the sea and goes inward. So here's an example of that land breeze that we saw earlier at 10A. Right, that blue arrow. So just go find wherever the blue arrow is. And that's right here. So that means this wind is going to start from the land. So we'll call it the land breeze. Yeah, 10B. C. Yeah. Come on now. There we go. And if you got everything down, you can go ahead and start your 5.4.2 Unit 5 test. So you should be able to skip 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. So we're skipping all that because we've done the documentaries and you filled out the stuff. So that replaces the quiz for this unit. So we're just taking the test. You can use the study guide that you marked up to help you out. So wherever you were, Apex should be able to push you to just Unit 5, the test. Let me know if you're not able to reach the test. And if you're done, I'll send you a blue kit that you can do. Oh, and if you need any questions, to go over any question again, let me know in the chat. I'll message you. So to repeat, you don't need to do anything from 5.1, 5.2, or 5.3. Just skip all those and go to the test 5.4.